Not yet. No point. Because the IRS sending letters to as many as 10,000 Bitcoin holders over the coming weeks, warning them of potential tax liabilities. Now, the letters, which the IRS calls educational, says the agency has information that you have one or more accounts containing virtual currency, and that failure to pay the proper taxes could result in civil and criminal enforcement activity. Now, the IRS won't say how it received the names of the Bitcoin holders, but last year, Coinbase, that's the currency exchange, they notified about 13,000 customers that it was releasing information to the IRS after a court order. Now, the IRS last year launched what it calls a virtual currency compliance campaign to deal with non-payment of taxes. The agency saying that virtual currency is an ongoing focus for IRS criminal investigation. Now, the IRS did publish rules on crypto back in 2014, saying that crypto is not a currency, but it is a property and therefore subject to capital gains tax. But crypto holders saying the agency has failed to release specific guidance for taxpayers. IRS Chief Charles Reddick saying recently that the rules would come in June, but now it's saying they're expected only in the near future. So there's a lot of questions by Bitcoin holders about how you value the cost basis, if you mine a coin, how you deal with if you take the coin and trade it for another coin, then buy a good, how do you value it? So a lot of questions. The IRS is saying you owe the taxes, but we're not going to tell you exactly for what.
Okay, we want to continue this crypto conversation. Stay where you are. We want to bring two experts into this conversation. Anthony Papliano, he's the co-founder and partner at Morgan Creek Digital Assets. Also, Melton Jamiris is with us, Chief Strategy Officer at CoinShares. Good morning to both of you. My question is this, less about the tax issue and more about the regulatory issue that's come up via Libra, via our conversations with Steven Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary recently, who basically, by the way, said he doesn't want to own Bitcoin 5 years forever. And the fact that there was a G7 meeting where crypto was a huge topic. Is there any anxiety that you have that at some point the G7 were to come together and say, you know what, actually guys, we don't, this whole Bitcoin thing or other cryptocurrencies like it, where it's a little bit harder to track, where some of the fundamentals behind it actually are about actually undoing the monopoly that fiat currency has. We're actually just going to make it very difficult in G7 countries for you to actually even get an on-ramp, even get onto a Coinbase or what have you, and what that therefore does to the value of this.
Well, let's be very clear. I was in that House last week testifying in the Libra hearing, and one of the things I really wanted to make clear is Bitcoin has been regulated in the United States for the last 6 years. The technology and the network itself are a public good, much like the internet. You can't really regulate an open software network, but all the companies building on top of Bitcoin are regulated based on the facts of what they do. So the way the IRS got the information of all of these crypto holders is through a John Doe summons it sent Coinbase about 3 years ago. They asked for a lot of information on about 20,000 Coinbase account holders. Now, Coinbase, being a well-capitalized company, was able to go to court and minimize the scope of that request. But again, people who live here in the United States, as Secretary Mnuchin pointed out,
right,
you have to follow the rules and laws of the United States. If you are a business that is in the business of holding customer funds, of enabling, exchanging, trading, buying and selling of assets, you're responsible for providing your customers with 1099s the same way any other business would. And anyone who holds Bitcoin should know. I had a Coinbase credit card for a while. I did all the cap gains on all the little transactions I did. It is a taxable activity. I mean, the rules don't change just because you're touching Bitcoin.
But you don't see this as a long-term issue? I mean, Mohammed and I have actually talked about this in terms of the monopoly that governments have over fiat currency, and long-term, if this were to ever get to sort of an escape velocity kind of situation where it really becomes a mass adoption, that governments actually then step in. By the way, in the same way that for reasons that are almost inexplicable to me, there has been such a focus on Libra, even though it doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah, I think you got to remember that, look, you can pay your business taxes in the state of Ohio with Bitcoin, right? There's been countries who have settled cross-border transactions with other countries in Bitcoin. Fidelity is building infrastructure to support Bitcoin, right? I don't think that Bitcoin's going to go away. I think that there's too many people, whether they're regulated financial organizations, FINRA's approving, etc.
It's going away. I'm just wondering whether as a protocol, whether it's like Torrent, we all thought was going to be a huge deal 10 years ago, and now it's one of many protocols, and it's fine.
But look, it's like cash, right? Cash, when you have a $20 bill and you get it out of the ATM, nobody can track what you do with that $20 bill if you go down the corner and you buy a hot dog, right? Same thing with Bitcoin.
Joe and I have had that debate. The distinction is you have to get a lot of briefcases. It becomes very complicated to carry around lots and lots of cash. It's very, very easy, obviously, to move that cash.
Have you seen Ozark?
Sure.
You heard of this
If
guy
only they had
Escobar?
this.
You heard of this guy Escobar?
The cash
We
argument.
finally
to me,
got him, but
The cash argument to me is a specious argument given the
nefarious-
efficiency of Bitcoin or any kind of electronic transfer relative to cash.
But
Cash, I get the joke on cash, but I don't think
The important part is that the countries that embrace this first are going to have a significant advantage moving forward. The game theory is that some country is going to embrace this in a very, very serious way, whether it's China, Russia, the United States, somewhere in Europe or South America, somebody's going to do it. And the first countries that does it are the first couple.
The advantage becomes what?
Because you can't stop it, right? And so the second that a country starts to adopt it, every other country is going to end up playing catch up, right? And so the countries that say, like, look at Singapore. Singapore's saying, look, bring it on, right? We're going to provide rules, we're going to give you clarity, and we want these companies here. We want the innovation, we want the entrepreneurs to come in. When you incentivize them, there's a way to create rules that are fair.
They're regulating it, right? What the United States is saying is you can have Bitcoin so long as you play by our rules. And I agree with your point, Andrew, that one of the most important things for a lot of hardcore Bitcoiners is that they have choice. They can choose what to do with their Bitcoin, who to transact with, who to interact with. This whole movement is about eliminating our dependence on intermediaries, right? Yesterday we saw another financial institution got hacked, 100 million customer records that were compromised. Right? We see large-scale systemic risk coming from these large institutions, and so the idea of Bitcoin doing away with intermediaries is a good one, but in fact we've become more and more dependent on intermediaries than ever. Just the fact that they were able to obtain so many user accounts from Coinbase is a great example.
It is a great debate and a longer one, and I know we will continue to have it. Thank you, guys.
you remember those pallets that went over to
Yes,
Iran?
I know.
It was like 400 million. Huh?
I
We
know,
didn't
but
know
it
anything.
was an airplane, pallets, people.
That's the whole reason you
How do I
get
get a
Bitcoin,
pallet
because
of cash?
it's instantaneous. It's
But I can do it right here. It can transfer
Well,
just
there
a
you
button
go.
in 10 seconds.
Coming up,